Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the steel battleships. I'm going to rate them today in the order I would get them. If I had to start a fresh account, I was grinding up towards these ships. Which ones would I get first? Well, this video is going to be the main ratings video, and I'm going to try and compare each of these ships. If you're interested, these ships each have their own dedicated video where I show a lot of gameplay on each one of them and talk about their strengths and weaknesses and what I like and don't like about that ship in particular. I should have that all in a playlist for 2024 steel battleships. For today though, we are just going to be talking about the differences between them and ranking them. Before we start though, I do want to be very clear here. This is the order I would get these ships in. The one that I like the best doesn't have to be the same as the one you enjoy the most. I might rate a ship that you really enjoy very low because it just doesn't work for me. I don't like the play style. It's just not my style of ship. And that's fine. But this is going to be the order in which I would like to get these ships. In fact, maybe you should rate them in the comments down below. That way people can see if they're interested in these steel ships, what other community members would like to get first. Now, with that little disclaimer out of the way, what is the worst steel battleship for me? Well, I think it's no surprise that it's the Shikishima. Perhaps you were thinking I would put Incomparable here. The main reason I dislike the Shikishima is very similar to Incomparable. I think 6 guns on a battleship just aren't consistent enough. These do a ton of damage. They hit like a truck when they hit. That's the key here. I just don't enjoy personally battleships that rely so heavily on RNG. And all battleships rely on RNG, but these 6-gun battleships rely on RNG even more than most, at least in my opinion. The other main problem with the Shikishima is going to be its playstyle and just the general overall layout of the ship. This ship is identical to a Yamato in playstyle. There's nothing really new here to deal with. It used to be that the secondaries were an interesting gimmick to try out because you actually got a ton of Harugumo turrets on the sides of your ship here. You actually get 5 Harugumo turrets on each side. Pretty strong. But that was before the secondary change where we got a little bit of a nerfed version of manual secondaries. Now it takes forever for them to spool up in accuracy. And to be honest with you, the accuracy was never really all that good on the Shikishima secondaries. They have decent pen, but really not worth going for. Obvious other issues with being a Yamato is of course the cheek here, right? So this ship doesn't really like to get all that close to the enemies. Big issue as well is the turret traverse. 55-second turret traverse feels straight out of 2015, and that's because it is. Just copying over stuff from the Yamato. At least we do get better AA. The AA here is actually reasonable. We get 10 flak bursts, so that is enough to shoot down a few planes, much more so than a Yamato. But the real downside here is just that you're less reliable than a Yamato. Yeah, you got better reload, but I would take 9 Yami shells over 6 of these Shikishima shells any day. Very, very disappointed in the consistency of these guns. That said, I do understand why it has to be inconsistent because 20k alpha, I mean, really? That level of overmatch and that level of damage, if that's consistently hitting you at even 15, 16 kilometers for that much, that's just impossible to fight against. But for that reason, it's going to be last on my list. Also, the detection is just not that good. It's fine, but we got some pretty strong ships coming up as far as detection. Getting closer to cruiser level detection. This is an older style of ship, and because of that, it's just not as powerful. The other major issue here is it's just not unique either. It plays like Yamato, feels like a Yamato, and that's why it's number 5. Number 4 for me is gonna be the Incomparable. Some of you might have thought I would put this last because I really disliked this ship when it came out. I did not enjoy it, and to be honest with you, in playing this ship a bunch more for this video, I really didn't like it either. But the main reason that Incomparable gets put just above the Shikishima here, the reason I would get it before the Shikishima, is it's unique. There is nothing else like this ship in the game. Where Shikishima, it's just a Yamato. You can get that same feeling for free by just grinding the Japanese battleship tech tree. Here though, 10.6 kilometer detect, 34 knots, is very, very fast. The other thing to keep in mind here is we have a speed boost as well. So this ship is extremely quick at maneuvering around the map. And with cruiser level detect, with the large caliber guns as well, again, nearly 20,000 alpha damage here with basically Des Moines detection, right? That's insane. But the weaknesses of the ship do stack up, of course. Low HP pool here, lack of armor. It's okay in the middle, but large superstructure. Your bow and stern aren't very well armored, and of course you do have a citadel that is just a little bit above water. The ship is very big, very long, very easy to hit, so you do need to be playing with your concealment, you do need to be flanking with this ship, and that can work out quite well, honestly. It can be very strong. Problem is, we have a lot of carriers in-game these days, and that really negates a lot of that concealment advantage, and you just want to stay in stealth. You don't want to be consistently spotted, able to be farmed down. This ship really needs to be able to break engagements up and not be in a sustained fight. You do have a super heal, but once that super heal's gone, you're quite vulnerable again. That's kind of the weakness of these super heals. They're on rather squishy ships. Of course, we still have the issues of 6 guns for me personally, not a huge fan of that. You do lack some range as well, so I've actually, in desperations to make this ship work for me, I actually went to range mod. I was having that tough a time to actually use the concealment to push in while I was playing with it. My commander, I also was using AA upgrades, even though that's really not worth it these days, let's be honest here, just to try and survive in this ship. I had a tough time with it, partially because I'm not a huge fan of it. I don't like the playstyle, don't really enjoy this ship, but also just having a rough time with this ship in the current patch. Of course, we got new carriers in this patch, so maybe that's one of the reasons we see more carriers as we go along here. Maybe we're in the future when you're watching this video and the carrier changes have come through and suddenly it's much easier to play against carriers and they don't feel as oppressive and difficult to play against. I don't know, but for now, it's tough to play this ship, and it's not a playstyle I enjoy all that much. And please keep in mind what I said at the beginning of this video, you might really enjoy this ship, and that is awesome. You should definitely continue to enjoy it, and don't let what I say change your opinion on this thing. Have a blast if you're having a good time with it. But for me, I would not be interested in getting this ship again. Now then, moving up to number 3. The top 3 here, all of these are worth getting in my opinion. They're all quite good battleships. But I had to put one last as far as the ones I would actually get. And that's the Mecklenburg. I don't enjoy small caliber guns either. Even though there's 16 of them and the accuracy is quite good, I want something with a little more punching power. And yes, you can aim for upper belts and all that, but a lot of the time, that is just not going to work out as well as having a ship with a little bit more punching power. The reload is quite nice. The HE a little bit weak, but considering your accuracy and your just sheer volume of fire, you're still going to do quite good damage with the HE and get decent amounts of fires. The secondaries are okay. German secondaries are fine. You can spec into them, but they're not the Schlieffen level, certainly. And I think they actually have slightly worse DPM than something like a GK even. But still, quite a strong ship. You get turtleback, you get German armor, of course, which is decent. The main issue with that is your superstructure is very easily farmed. This ship has a lot lower HP pool than something like a GK or a Preussen at this tier. So even with that same weakness of a superstructure, you just have less HP to work with. Your concealment is a little bit better though, which is nice. You're quite quick. And you have some decent AA. Trying an AA build here actually kind of shredded some planes, if you remember that video a couple of weeks ago. And you have defensive fire, which is quite useful. Notably, no hydro available to this ship, so can't swap from a spotter plane to a hydro here. So pushing in can be a little bit difficult. This ship does want to play at mid-ranges, of course, because of that. Also, your turret angles are terrible on this ship. You're forced to give a ton of broadside, so that low HP pool can hurt you even more in cases like that. At least you do have torpedoes if you are getting yourself into a brawl with enemy battleships. That can be quite good. But this ship overall just isn't as enjoyable to play for me as the other two. I don't think it's as strong as the remaining two, and I also personally just don't have as much fun with this one. But I do still think this one is worth picking up. I would just get it third. Now, these last two ships are both incredibly powerful and very enjoyable to play. But one of them had to be second. I had to choose one of them to get first. And as we can see, I put Lauria second. I think that overall, Bourgogne is just more enjoyable for me. Lauria, though, is still a very, very strong battleship. The SAP, the 457 SAP here, is insane. The accuracy is pretty good, although you still can get trolled. But dealing so much damage without worrying of overpens is incredibly powerful. The ship also has very, very good detection and is quite quick. So much like the Bourgogne, you have good detection and you're very fast. So they both maneuver around the map very, very well. Bourgogne does have better AA. Not that that matters that much, let's be honest here. I think the Lauria is going to do a little bit better against angled targets with that SAP. Bourgogne HE is no joke though, but SAP is pretty insane. But against broadsides, when you're flanking, when you're getting those flanks on, I think Bourgogne with that reload booster is going to do a little bit better. I can't quite trust these guns as much. 8 guns is enough, okay? I'm not going to say that that is a critical flaw like I will for a Shikishima or an Incomparable. But having 12 is just nicer. The ship also has okay HP pool. Not amazing, but it certainly is enough here. And considering our armor and just how comically low in the water this ship is, I go into more detail on this in the Lauria video, but you can tank a lot in this ship. It is rather surprising how much you can actually tank with this ship when you're playing it at mid-ranges. Some slight weaknesses to this ship, though, do certainly include the range. We're a little bit lacking on range here, and so we obviously want to be using Sansonetti. If you have this commander, he just improves every single Italian ship, it seems like. They all seem to lack range. They all seem to want to swap between their ammo shells, and that's where that improved gun feeder can certainly have some advantages. Now, Lauria certainly is the newest ship to these steel battleships, and you'll know from my initial impressions of this ship, I wasn't a huge fan. I was getting trolled on dispersion a lot more. Probably wasn't playing it correctly either. I wasn't getting myself into the right positions. But over time, as I've played this ship over the last few months, my opinion of it has certainly improved. If you'd asked me back when I first played it, I probably would put it below Mecklenburg, actually. But now it's right up here very, very close with the Bourgogne for me personally. Some things certainly you need to watch out for with this ship are the angled bits of the hull here, just below the superstructure. That is going to be a shot trap of sorts. You can see how it's angled like this. So if you're at closer ranges and you're brawling someone and you think, hey, look at me, I'm taking a good angle here, they're just going to bounce off of my belt armor, which is pretty good, actually. You just aim here and you just get smashed for a huge amount of damage. It doesn't matter if you're kiting or pushing. In fact, kiting, it's even worse. There's some serious shot trap issues here, but it's still very low. Look at how low it is in the water here. It's almost comical. So if you're at those mid-ranges and like I mentioned, running propulsion mod, you can dodge and speed juke a lot because essentially the enemy ships have to hit here. They have to hit between your turrets in order to do damage to the ship reliably. Otherwise, it's so low in the water and you keep it angled, this is going to be a very, very difficult ship to deal damage to at those mid-ranges specifically. Although perhaps this has one of the goofiest looking citadels in the entire game, it still is only between the turrets, right? So as soon as you get out to the turrets, it's directly waterline. But it is above waterline citadel that you have to watch out for. Only 350 millimeters of armor, not great as well. And these weird, maybe that's the engines, I guess, modeled there. But yeah, it's something to worry about with this ship is you do have to be careful when you go broadside with this one. And lastly, before we move on from this one, you might be tempted to go with a secondary build of sorts on this ship. It has SAP secondaries, right? Isn't that strong? Well, look at that reload. It is pathetic DPM, and it doesn't get any sort of improved accuracy. So I really don't think it's worth speccing into the secondaries on this ship. It also sort of baits you into playing the ship wrong and incorrectly. You're going to try and force secondary engagements to happen, and that's not where this ship wants to play. It wants to play a little further back than that. Not camping, not sniping at the back, certainly, but it doesn't want to play in secondary range. It wants to be just a few kilometers back from that, where it can reliably go dark between shots and disengage if need be. Lauria certainly is a very, very strong battleship, almost a 1B to the Bourgogne's 1A to me. And speaking of 1A, here we are finally with my favorite steel battleship, the one I would get first, the Bourgogne. We're even here in a French port, and that's because this is still my favorite tier 10 steel battleship. I'd get this one first again. Coming into 2024 here, the whole point of this little series on the steel battleships, I wondered if it would still be my recommendation. This has always been my go-to recommendation. If you have steel and you're looking at getting your first steel battleship, it was just always Bourgogne. It was my default answer. But I wondered, maybe with Lauria coming in, maybe with super ships, with more 32 millimeters of overmatch, right? We, of course, struggle with that a lot in something like the Bourgogne. It's 32 mil everywhere. Maybe we're struggling to get those flanks working as well with this ship. Maybe there's just more HE spam that's more accurate at range, that's difficult for the Bourgogne to get into positions where it's extremely powerful. But after playing all of these ships again quite a bit over the last couple of weeks, Bourgogne still got it, man. Bourgogne still has it. It's close with Lauria. It is close. If you're wanting something that is a little bit stealthier, a little bit stronger against angled ships with that sap, I think you would enjoy Lauria a little bit more. But for me personally, if you're wanting to hit broadsides, if you're wanting to catch people out, and you're wanting to take that reload booster, it's so much fun, man. It is just so much fun with having that reload booster. You have the speed as well to flank, similar to Lauria as well. It's just so nice to have that option of when you find someone broadside and dispersion trolls you, you have that booster to pop, and suddenly you have heavy cruiser levels of reload on these massive guns. So the consistency may not be there typically as far as battleships go, but that reload booster gives you that consistency. That's kind of how I view it. As well, if you're forced to play against longer range, very angled ships, you just swap over to the HE. Suddenly you got some very powerful HE shells, good alpha damage, great fire chance for the reload. And as soon as they damage control, guess what? You have heavy cruiser reload on 36% fire chance. So the permanent fires are very, very easy to get with this ship. A lot of times, if you want to be stacking damage in this ship, if you're interested in going for massive high average damages in this ship, you can do insane work with this high explosive and still be able to swap to that armor piercing when needed. The other thing that I really enjoy about the Bourgogne over something like the Lauria is its ability to brawl. This ship can actually brawl a little bit better, even though it doesn't seemingly have the armor. And sure, against overmatch, yeah, it's going to be rough. But as soon as they don't overmatch 32, the hull here is very difficult to deal with. You have a superstructure, sure. Shot traps aren't nearly as bad though, because it's still just superstructure. This isn't actually heavily plated and going to arm shells. The key though is that you have a bit of French black hole armor. So this kind of debuted with the Henry and the cruiser line, but the battleships kind of have it too, where you have this torpedo plating, but then you have this weird turtleback. It's not as good as German turtleback, so it is still possible to citadel these ships, but it's very unlikely. And then you have this massive gap in the armor here between the turtleback and where the citadel actually starts here. It's kind of weird, but a lot of times you just don't take damage, even when you're not angling quite right and shooting all of your guns, that kind of thing. It can brawl. And that's really nice. And it has the speed to choose the situations it wants to engage in. And so I really, really enjoy it for that reason. That, sure, I can play it as this mid-range punishing ship, just like the Lauria, but I still have that option to push in and brawl it out a little bit better. Also, we have more range, and I think that helps us deal with those campy sniping maps a little bit better than the Lauria. At least until Lauria with Sansonetti gets its first kill. Now, you might be looking over at the concealment and wondering, wow, why is he talking about this ship as having similar-ish concealment, better than normal battleship concealment? That's because this ship you can also run dumb builds on and try secondary builds. The guns just work so well normally that, you don't even have to run Furious and Concealment fully. And this is just a meme build that I was trying. Don't worry, the games that I was playing in this ship and all the other ones, I tried to go for more meta builds. But I figured since, hey, I'm just doing the summary now, I'm done with playing these ships to really compare them, I can go play a fun meme build if I want to. And I really do enjoy that more on the Bourgogne. I think it works a little better. Lauria just is kind of typecast into its only role there, where it's mid-range, and it's very strong at that. But Bourgogne has a little more flexibility to play those fun, stupid builds. So with that said, these are my ratings. This is it. Bourgogne, Lauria, Mecklenburg, Incomparable, Shikishima. That is the order that I would get these ships in, again, if I had to start from scratch. I don't think I would really go for Incomparable or Shikishima. My cutoff point of worth getting for me personally and just what I enjoy would be after Mecklenburg. Those top three are all very, very good. And for me personally, it really is Bourgogne and Lauria very, very close. Mecklenburg, quite a bit down from that for me personally. So that's it. These rankings will be in Discord. I have created a separate channel where I will be adding to these ship ratings. We're of course going to continue to do videos on these ship ratings. Eventually, I will get to the steel cruisers, the steel DDs, the coal ships as well. It'd be interesting to take a look at those. Research Bureau even. But for now, we've just started this out with the steel battleships. Let me know which one you would like to see next. I'm kind of leaning towards steel cruisers. Get through steel first and then go over to coal or something like that. But I don't know. If you've enjoyed this, certainly feel free to let me know. But that in Discord will be where I'm just going to post this picture that I've generated where I'm ranking these ships. That way you can always see which ones I would like to get without coming back to this video and hunting around for that picture. So all that's really left to say is thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed and listening to me ramble a little bit about these steel battleships. Certainly in the comments below, let me know which order you would put these 5 steel battleships in. And that way, people who want and are interested in learning what different community members would rank these ships in, looking for different perspectives, can look in the comments down below and maybe get a little more insight into which ship they would like to get first. Now, I will say it's going to be a little while before I can take a look at whatever is the next version of this will be. I do want to put quite a few games into each individual ship before I rate them again. This is to do with a 2024 perspective. I don't want to let my past judgments of a ship impact what my current outlook is on these specific ships. Things can change. I can change as a player enjoying different playstyles, but also the meta can change. And past recommendations that I've just always held, like perhaps Bourgogne, might change. In this case, no, Bourgogne is still my favorite, but we never know. Maybe with some of those other ones, I will have some changes to be seen, just to update it with the new meta and where 2024 is at. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.